Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. We have Moustafa with us. He's the president of Push Analytics, and I'm so excited for what he has to teach us today because he is an absolute expert around outlining the key benefits for processes that you need in your firm. Are you a firm that just kind of wings it and caters to anything the client asks, or are you a firm that has really documented processes that allow your clients to have an excellent experience every single time and have it repeatable? Well, Moustafa is here today to be able to teach you how to flow out these processes, how to look at these processes, and I'm going to turn the floor over to him. Thank you so much for being here today, Moustafa.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Davida. So thank you guys for coming. Welcome. And like Davida said, president of Push Analytics, which is a full service digital agency. We do ads, process, CRM, and more. I have extensive background in both SMBs and corporate and helping on processes and really take you to the next level. So we're here to talk about processes. Let's just jump right in. And you heard a little bit about me. We're going to just kick it off really quick with a quick poll. We just want to see, hey, how comfortable are you with your process today? How do you feel about your process today? I just want to see where the audience is, right? I feel good, hey, they're generally good. I maybe want to see what I can improve. Maybe it's like, hey, they're decent. I need to build them out more, but I have some processes. It's like we have something that kind of barely works, or we don't even have any processes, right? So we'll leave a minute, kind of just see what you guys have to say. Just feel out where you stand right now. I do like to learn a little bit about the audience right when we begin.
Yeah, so it looks like everybody jumped on that pretty quick. So the winner is 57% decent. I know I need to build them out more. And then, funnily enough, it is an even tie between good, bad, and non-existent with 14%.
Perfect.
So
Excellent.
decent, I think, is people where people are at, and that makes sense because we do have accountants, bookkeepers, and tax pros on the call. That's who we marketed it to. So I think that's actually not surprising to me. So, but it sounds like there's about half or feel like they need to build up more than the other half are like, okay, we really need some help.
Awesome. No, good stuff. That's really good. And good to see that people are in different stages. Now, the one thing that some people said, hey, non-existent, right? So I want to just say something. Every business has a process, right? Every single one. So well, what do you mean? Like, we don't have a process, and we don't really have one, whatever. Well, what is a process, right? A process is a series of actions or steps that take in order to achieve an end. So if you're a business and you have customers and you're servicing the customers and then they're paying you, then you have a process, whether you know it or not, whether you're looking at it or not, right? Maybe your process is sophisticated and you have dashboards and stuff and whatever, and it's a very involved process. Maybe it's spreadsheets, right? We all love spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. We use them all the time for different things. They're very useful in accounting too. But so maybe your whole process is on spreadsheets with your sales and everything else. Or heck, maybe it's on napkins, right? Maybe you just write down the numbers and names and information of your customers on napkins, and that's how you run your business, and you quote them on a napkin, right? That still would be a process, right? So everybody has a process. It's very important to realize that any business that's functional has a process, right? So if you're not looking at it, you're not really, you can't put your head in the sand and just ignore it, right? It's something that's going to exist regardless. It's a matter of whether you're looking at it or not, because while every business has a process, it doesn't mean that they're a good process or an organized process. And in fact, not every business is optimizing their processes, right? And that's really important. Well, all right. What happens if I don't? I don't care. I don't care about process, man. What are you talking? Why do I care about this, right? So as a business owner, well, if you don't, a lot of things, right? Lost efficiency. You lose a lot of efficiency because you don't have the process that you would need to run the business efficiently. Lack of scalability, right? It's very hard to scale without a process. A very big obstacle towards that. And it doesn't have to be scaling where you're trying to be like a gazillion-dollar company, right? Any level of significant growth becomes very hard when you don't have a process, right? And no transferability, right? Hey, there's no real organized process, and it's very hard to hire somebody, or hey, Patricia went on maternity leave and now we have nobody to manage the front desk or whatever, or whoever, or this guy went on disability or family leave or whatever, and it's like now we're just backed up. Lost time, right? You lose a lot of time because things take longer than they could be taking, because you have to find things and where's our documents? that guy gave us his W-2. Where is it? I don't know. Is it in my email? Did I print it? Did I put it? Where'd it go? I don't know. You lose a lot of time that way, right? Orphan tasks, things fall between the cracks. It's like, hey, we had a busy week last week. 10 people called in. They were interested. We talked to them. We were supposed to do conflict checks for all 10, but we forgot. So like, we did 5 and then the others fell between the cracks, and you just, end up with, lose customers, right? Less customers, and there's more time to service each customer that you do have because they're not efficient, and more, right? So there's a lot of reasons, things that would happen if you are not optimizing your process. So with a good process, I mean, you can increase your efficiency, set up for scale, right? That's again one of the big contributors to being able to scale. Easily expand the team, right? Being able to add people to the team, and they can plug and play almost because they know the process is organized, documented, they can see what they need to do, and go to the next level. And then save time, and tasks will be stay on top of because of automation, and there's things are organized, and there's a way to see what needs to be done. Be able to handle more customers and quicker service for the customers you do have. So, you get them done quicker, but also they're happier, right? So everybody wins. Okay, awesome. So we're talking about process. Okay, great. Makes sense. We should optimize our processes. So now, what processes do we even optimize, right? So let's go a little bit more specific here. What are you talking about, Moustafa? So, well, what's the number one aspect, in your business, right? The number one aspect in your business, in any business, not just accounting, but any business, almost any business, I guess, is that you're trying to get customers, right? You're trying to get customers in and out. You're trying to get revenue, right? So you're trying to get customers. So let's look at it from fundamentals, right? With the customer's perspective, and then go from there. So, okay, people are going to hear about your business through various sources. Put this as kind of like a block, but this includes a lot of things, right? This goes into your marketing strategy. It's like a different conversation, different topic that we could maybe have at a different event. But that could be like your social media, LinkedIn, Facebook ads, Google ads, all the different types of ads, email campaigns, whatever it is, whatever your marketing strategy is, referrals, everything is in this bucket, right? Different people are going to hear about your business somehow, some way. Okay. So then what are they going to do? Well, they're going to come to your website, right? Okay, good. Now they're starting to interact kind of with the business. Okay. So some of them are not going to be interested. Some of them are going to be interested. And then those people are going to be leads. Okay. So that's the first part of where we want to look at process, which is lead management. So first process, lead management. So lead management process, for lead, okay. What could that look like? So lead's going to come to the website, and they're going to fill out a form, right? So, okay, they fill out a form. And then what happens, right? I mean, you don't want it to just go nowhere, right? Oftentimes you see this, people have a form, they set it up when they first set up the website, and it doesn't really go anywhere, or it goes to like somebody's email that doesn't really check it, or it goes to like some generic mailbox that nobody really even has access to. And then you'll lose customers because those people were interested in talking to you and you didn't follow up with them fast enough. They're like, is this website even functional? Is this business even around? And then they just forget about you and just move on, right? So filling out a form. So you want to actually just store that contact info immediately. And then you want to send them an immediate follow-up email, right? Even if the form requires, usually will, some human to actually reply, but you want to send an immediate follow-up email so they know like, hey, this website, it's alive. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for submitting a contact us form. Our team will reach out to you right away. Our CPAs are ready to, we're assigning a CPA to you to reach out, talk about your inquiry, whatever it is, right? You want to send them a response right away so that they feel like the form is alive, right? And then, okay, they may or may not respond to your email, right? So you want to make sure that they do respond, right? So let's say you do send them that follow-up email, and then you send them another personal email later, like, hey, my name is John, and I'm the director of small medium business at the firm or whatever, and I'd be happy to talk to you and whatever, right? And then let's say they don't reply. Well, you want to make sure that you're following up and that the appropriate action is taken, right? So you want to have some sort of automation reminders to remind yourself of like, I need to reply, I need to follow up. It's been 5 days, I haven't really heard back from this customer or prospect. Let me message them. Right, so you're gonna send internal email reminders for follow-up if they don't take action, and then it's like, okay, did we get in contact or did we not in the end, right? After we followed up and did all the appropriate things. So if we did, then it's gonna go into sales, which we're gonna talk about in a second. If we didn't, then it's gonna go into like a nourishment process, which is more marketing, which we'll also talk about. Okay, so that's one leg of it. There could be another flow though. So let's go back to lead. Okay, so now let's say in this case, instead of them filling out like a contact us form, maybe you have a different page, or it's a different process. You could have both, right? Maybe it's like, okay, now they want to book a meeting. You want to let them book meetings directly, right? Okay, great. So you need some sort of booking page and booking tool, right? You need to be able to capture the relevant information to get them to book. You need to ask them any pre-qualifying questions, right? I mean, if you're a firm that, prefers, for example, to do business type tax returns, and you work with businesses that are 1 million plus, for example, right? If somebody's like 50K, you don't necessarily, they can't even afford you. You're not going to want to really, be able to like actually work with them. So you want to ask pre-qualifying questions, right? Put in some pre-qualifying questions, where you have some logic based on pre-qualifying questions. Different things happen. So what's your revenue? What are you looking for? What type of entity are you? Stuff like that, right? Then you want to get them get a calendar invite out to them, reminders, and then okay, we got to track. Did they show up or did they not show up, right? So if they showed up, then great. We're gonna do like meeting follow up, and it goes into sales, right? If they didn't show up, well, we could still do something. We can send them like a rebooking sequence, like a automated series of emails that say, hey, sorry we missed you. Why don't you book another time? Here's the link again, whatever, and follow up with them at that point. Okay, so that's the lead management process right here. So this is what the whole thing looks like, right? Again, every process is very specifically done for the business, but I am giving the overview of like what would go into it and what would go into these types of processes, right? But you might be like, well, hey, our business is really, we don't like people booking meetings directly because we're so busy and we want to screen them, then that's fine. And you would only have this, for example, this side, or vice versa. You might be like, we don't want contact us or people, we're quick, fast service. We just do 1040s day in, day out. Like we can't even, they have to be able to book right away, right? Like there's companies like that they just do quick in and out, 1040 tax service, and that's it, right? And maybe you want to like go, just take them straight to meeting. Everybody's qualified as long as they have any income, right? So so again, every process is very specific to the business. But again, like being able to organize it and lay it out at a high level where it's like very clear, everybody knows what's happening, everybody understands, and it goes into like obviously more detail of like what tool we're using, stuff like that. So that's on the lead management process. So okay, let's go back here for our diagram, right? So we have, okay, people come, they become leads. Great, we already talked about what happens there. And then what happens after that, right? So we already talked about it a little bit, but okay, now it goes into sales. Okay, so I'm going to talk about sales. So that's the next process that we're going to put up here on our process board, sales. Okay, so sales process. Let's say it starts with an initial call. You had a conversation with them, whether they came to the website or however way they came. And then you want to go into, okay, well, do they qualify or they don't qualify? If they don't qualify, well, okay, then we're just going to mark them as not qualified, right? Again, and maybe they don't make enough revenue or whatever to be able to work with, this particular firm. It's just not going to make sense, so they're not qualified. But you're still going to want to store their information, in your database or CRM or whatever, right? And a lot of reasons for that. But maybe you also want to reach out to them maybe because maybe they would qualify at some point later. Maybe you want to make a note. Maybe it's like, hey, we only work with $1 million businesses. These guys are 200,000. But you kind of notice on the call, like, but you know what? They're growing pretty fast. They're 200,000. They only started 6 months ago. And I think in like a year they'll be able to afford it. So maybe you kind of agree to them. Maybe you make a note like, hey, I want to follow up with this guy in a year. I think we can work together in a year, right? So you want to store them in your database, have that information. Okay, now they qualify. Let's just say they qualify now. So or another client prospect qualifies. Okay, so now what happens to the people that qualify? Well, okay, so now we want to do a discovery call, right? We want to actually ask like very specific questions. They qualify like at a high level, that pre-qualify, let's call it. So we want to like ask like more specific questions, like really dive in, like, okay, so who exactly are your partners? Like, how do you guys operate? Like, what role do you have? What role do the partners have? Like, you want to actually like ask them the questions. Maybe there's a whole playbook here. And that's usually something that's like part of a process, like a playbook with questions to ask at a call. So, and then, okay, you have the call. You want to make sure you gather the qualifying information for that you're going to need later, right, to further qualify them, like their entity name, maybe socials, whatever you need to be able to run your conflict check, right? So you're going to want, that's another part of the process, right? We want to run the conflict check, and then okay, everything passes, it's good. There's no conflict. Let's prepare the engagement letter. and then, okay, great, we sent them the engagement letter with a retainer agreement, they signed, they paid, right? So again, a process played out. And there's more branches and stuff here, but again, showing the high level of like what that would look like. Now, with sales in general, though, it's usually more of like, yeah, it's more of a pipeline. As you can see, it's like a straight like line across. You want to take them through each step with some divergence when they don't qualify or stuff like that. So you do always want to lay out your sales process kind of like a pipeline where it's like very clear what each step is. And again, sales does not mean like somebody has a sales title. Anybody that is, bringing something to close and bringing the customer in to pay, right? So if you're the owner of the firm and you're one man firm, you're doing it yourself, whatever, if it's a corporate firm, and maybe there's certain people that are closing, that's fine. But if it's, if the CPAs are doing it, I mean, whoever is closing, that's what we're calling sales, right? So if you're looking at this and you're like, hey, well, my title is not sales, we're just talking about process, right? So, so sales is anybody who's bringing in customers and walking them through the process. Anyhow, so, I mean, you want to lay it out as a pipeline where everything is very clearly defined. So whoever is involved in the sales process knows when does somebody move from one step to another. So like discovery, it's like, okay, for them to be discovery, we're trying to get discovery meeting, get key information, confirm that they're interested, initiate, and then be able to initiate the conflict check post call if they are interested, right? For conflict check, it's like we want to have all the information on hand that we need, run the check, and then if we come back and we actually need to clarify any information, we need to be able to get that. So that's the conflict check phase. For like the letter preparation for engagement letter, we need to be able to prepare the engagement letter once they pass the conflict check, assign an appropriate personnel to the account, like, whoever that is. We assign you to this CPA or whoever, because, they feel like this, they match your industry, whatever it is, right? And then finalize, whatever, hourly rates or however engagement we're going to charge the customer, right? So then the retainer, again, same thing with the contract review. They might come back, have questions. Maybe, hey, we want to call them, want to make sure you got your contract. Want to make sure if you have any questions, maybe they go back and forth there. And ultimately we request that they sign, and then they sign and pay. Okay. So that's up for the sales process. All right. I'm gonna keep going here and say, okay, if they were not actually, let's say they were a lead and they did not continue through to be sales, like, they signed up on the website, but then they just ghosted, like you tried, they ghosted, whatever. So do we just, whatever? No, right? We want to nourish them, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier. We want to nourish them, put them in a marketing process. They've already filled out a form, they've expressed interest. Maybe they're just not ready or they got busy or whatever, but we want to still keep them in the pipeline and nourish them, right? So again, that's our third process here that we're putting up on the board, lead nourishment. So how do you nourish a lead, right? Well, you have their email now, they filled out a form, so let's send them follow-up content, right? Just keep them engaged, keep them learning about us. Enroll them in some sort of newsletter, right? If you have a newsletter, if you have content, you again having like a cadence for that, which is part of the marketing strategy, but having a cadence, having some sort of newsletter, right? And then send them relevant updates based on their needs, right? So if they've indicated that, hey, I'm really interested in corporate tax, that's a service I want from you guys, and then they just passed, let's say, tax change. Let's say they passed the Tax Cut and Jobs Act and back in 2017 or 18, 2017. And then you're like, all right, let's send an email out to like, hey, this new law just passed and here's some of the changes that you need to know. And then they're like, oh, these guys are experts, I should talk to them, right? So relevant information based on like their specific needs, right, including them in that. So you can do that to nourish a process. It's a continuous process. You're going to keep doing that until they, hopefully, at some point, some of them are going to, be like, what, actually, this new tax law that just passed, I need help. I need help. I heard about these green credits on the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't really know anything about it, and these guys just put out an email about it. Yeah, you know what? Let me reach out. And right, so at some point they're going to actually, some of them at least will reach out, right? So okay, cool. So we talked about that. What happens if they don't sell? Let's go back to the sales process. Well, let's say once you go through sales, then they become a customer. Okay, if it goes through successfully, the other people drop off, we're not showing that. Okay, so we're done, right? Yay, congratulations, awesome, we're done. No more process, right? We're done. Nah. So actually, this is only like kind of like the midway point, right? Or you've only finished the pre-sales stuff. But then there's a whole world of process like after sales, right? So onboarding, really important, right? Fourth process on board. And onboarding is very specific to what you're doing. Very specifically, I mean, it's different. Like, right, if you're doing bookkeeping, for example, that's different, than if you're doing the corporate tax returns, or if you're doing personal tax returns, it's different. There might be a very simple process there, or maybe just like a meeting and getting documents, right? But it varies heavily, and even the same firm could have different parallel onboarding processes depending on what services are being offered to that individual, customer or company. So, but you do want to have a seamless handoff from sales to, post sales, right? Which is actually a very important key juncture. And across a lot of different businesses, this is a very, very huge point of efficiency gain that we work with, right? Like that handoff between sales and service. Even if it's the same people working both sides, but still the handoff from the customer being in a sales cycle into being in a post-sales cycle, right? Ensure that all the info is available to be able to service the customer, right? So it's like, all right, we talked about, we're going to help this guy with his partnership taxes. We talked about this, and they want to move over from their other accountant. We did the conflict check, we signed the letter, great. Okay, you know what? We need your old taxes on file now because we're going to be helping you, like advising you moving forward. So we need your old last 3 years or that you did with the other account on file, for example, right? And then you want to really set up for the operational success, right? So onboarding is really what can set the pace for being able to like succeed while working with the client on like a long-term relationship. So onboarding is very important, very specific to that business, but very, very important. Okay, what happens after onboarding? Well, then we go into operations, right? Like how do we actually do the work, right? Like they are reaching out to us because they want us to do work. So how do we do the actual work that we're signed up to do? So, and that's actually fulfilling the tax return, the service itself, right? Like you have a whole process for that. So the operations, right? Carrying out the actual work, the process to file the tax returns, like, hey, we sit down, we meet with you, we talk with you, and then being able to organize and track the information. And again, you want to have a specific process there. So going through the rest, service, how do you service the customer after? Maybe they have questions, they filed their return, they have a question, they got audited, whatever. And then remarketing and being able to like bring those customers back into the door the next time that they need a service, or if they're ongoing, like bookkeeping or something or whatever, then like making sure that we retain, right? So, again, you have different processes, both pre-sales and post-sales that pertain to the business. And, they touch across every aspect of the business. So, just, recap overall, right? What is a component of an efficient process? Well, either organized, easy to understand, right? Documented. You want it to be documented so people can follow. You can train new people on it. Easy to teach people on, and collects and stores key data. Like key information is collected and stored by this process so that you can track and be able to know what's happening. Easy to report on those key points and metrics, right? And then accounts for the full customer journey and experience, right? You want to account for the perspective of the customer, which is ultimately as a business what you're trying to get, and then also account for the business needs. Okay. So before we jump in here, Davida, is it okay if we just leave, because we're going into a different segment now, leave a couple minutes for questions if anybody has questions?
Absolutely. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. That's what's open for your questions to be taken.
Yeah, Moustafa, there was one that came up earlier from Samuel, and he was asking about the conflict check and what goes on in a conflict check in that process of sort of, qualifying the or rather not qualifying the sale. Yeah, I guess it's qualifying the sale is what he was meaning.
Oh, no, yeah. What we're talking about conflict check is some firms, not all firms, but some firms, they run a conflict check to see if this entity that they're going to be working with, and this is more particular on the business side of taxes, that the entity that they're going to be working with is an entity that they can work with, and it doesn't necessarily conflict with any of their other businesses. Each
Yeah,
company.
so that might be a larger firm consideration.
Yeah.
And we probably have a mix here of tax, bookkeeping, and accounting, accounting consultants. So not everybody here is doing tax, but it's a great thing to think about. What I was thinking about conflict was, is that client going to need things that we don't offer, right? Or are they
Oh,
going
that
to
could be, I
be
mean, yeah,
that?
you could
Yeah,
incorporate that.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. But there are definitely firms that conflict check is a big part of their process. Some
yeah,
firms no. And again, the process, like I said, it's going to be specific to your firm and
right.
what you're doing, right? So we're showing kind of like conceptually this is what could be in it. Right. But it really, like, we're bookkeeping, like there's no conflict. I mean, right, maybe there is
Yeah.
though. It's like a direct competitor and they don't
Well,
want you to.
one would be, are they going to pay our bills, and are they going to be people that we'd want to work
Right.
with?
That is part of it, by the way. That is part of the conflict. It's like
Yeah,
think of it as a background check, right? But
yeah,
also adding in a layer of like, is there a conflict of interest, right? So,
perfect,
uh, yeah,
perfect.
great
Yeah,
question though. Great question. All right, awesome. If we don't have anything else, we will keep going. All right. So part two, right, is like, all right, cool. We know kind of some of the processes that we can do, we could be doing. What But how do we execute on it? Right? We need tools. We need to be able to actually execute on this automation and have tools to accomplish it. So you can use different tools and kind of connect them to each other. So maybe like you might need a tool for forms, then another tool for emails, then another tool for sales pipeline automation, and then other tools for like onboarding process and whatever. Right. So you can use like a bunch of different tools and then try to mash it together. Or you could use HubSpot, right? So we really like HubSpot. HubSpot's an all-in-one system. Has different features and different hubs, and it's easy to use and set up, and can empower your business, right? It has the different hubs like between marketing, sales, service, CMS, which is like website if you want, and more, right? So we're gonna, before we jump in and talk a lot about HubSpot, I do want to see here, like some of you might already have heard of HubSpot, be using it, or using some other CRM tool, or maybe not, maybe you're using spreadsheets, right? So what tool do you currently use to track your customers? And don't feel bad if it's no tool or whatever, that's totally fine, but that's another option as well. So,
yeah. People are chiming in here. So far, no tool or other tool are the leads.
okay.
Let's see what everybody else is. We've only had about 40% of the attendees. Folks, if you could just click in here, it'd be great. Let us know what tool you're using. And don't feel bad if it's no tool, because I think that's the majority of folks is really try to do it,
Absolutely.
themselves. Yeah. All
Okay,
right. We've got
cool. So
71. Yeah. So, we got, sorry, we got a couple, we've got 86% have voted so far, and the winner is other tool at 50%, followed by no tool 33%, and then Salesforce at 17%.
okay, awesome. All right, good stuff. So cool. And again, that's fine. That you're not using a tool, and we're here to give you you know some options and help with that. So all right, cool. So HubSpot works across the entire customer journey, right? So it goes from before they're even interacting with your business, to like being a prospect, to being a customer, and then hopefully later to like actually being a promoter and saying, hey, these guys are awesome, and help you get like more business, right? It's easy to use, which is really important for a tool like that. There's other CRMs and tools that maybe aren't necessarily easy to use, and maybe sometimes maybe they have certain features that are advanced or whatever, but it's still ultimately, any customer management tool is ultimately as good as the ability of the people who are managing customers' is ability to use it, right? If it could be, you can have so many bells and whistles, but like if it's hard for you to go in and actually accomplish day-to-day tasks, then you're not going to really use it, and it's not going to really be that useful. And we've seen that with like bad corporate implementations of different CRMs, where it's like implementation is just bad and people don't use it properly. So HubSpot is easy to use, which is great, and it's a full platform, like we said, between again CRM, but also like just other sales features, marketing features, which isn't even really a CRM thing, and then service, which is like a great linkage where you can link sales and service to each other, and then service ends up driving sales, which is really cool, something we do a lot of. So things like lead nurturing, I mean, you can handle that in HubSpot, right? Like let's say we talked about that a little bit earlier, but let's say hey, it's like they fill out a form, they get an email, and maybe depending on whether they book a meeting or not, then they get like now that we change their status so that we know, but if they don't, then it's like, okay, they get another email, and then maybe again, you could have however advanced way that it needs to be done. It's just like showing a conceptual example, right? It can be set in HubSpot with like if then layers of like, hey, if they do this, I mean, this is like a funky example, right? If they're red team or blue team or white team, right? Depending on what team they are, they get different, enroll in different sequences. It could be, hey, like depending on whether they fill out the form, if based on their revenue numbers, like, hey, if they're higher tier revenue, they get a different email. If they're lower tier revenue, they get a different email because different departments, different things, and different things we want to highlight. So again, it goes in as deep as your business really needs, right? So in the example of like a sales pipeline, for example, that we showed earlier, we can actually have this laid out in HubSpot, which is really cool, right? Because I can see kind of like, hey, working the deals and seeing, exactly where everything is and being able to not like have it fall between the cracks. I'm going to switch over my screen here for a second because I want to actually now jump into HubSpot itself. Well, okay. All right, is my Google Chrome visible?
Yeah, looks good.
All right, perfect. So we made this for the call, fake website. Accountants are us, all right? It's a page where you're trying to get people to fill out information on the business and schedule a consultation, right? So, okay, accountants are us. You learn a little bit about accountants are us, and then it's like right here. This is what the customer sees, right? It's like, okay, they have a form they can fill out. So let's go ahead and fill out something here. Okay. So I'm gonna say, let's just say this guy's name is Jonathan, Smith. Okay, so he's trying to come in. He's trying to work with us, smithco.com or something, whatever. Jonathan at smithco.com. And it's like, okay, that's going to ask him, well, what are you interested in? Like, are you interested in individual? And then this is a required field too. Are you interested in individual tax returns? Partner, you could pick whatever, right? So he's like, all right, cool. Corporate tax. Yeah, maybe I'm interested in my individual tax too. Why not? Definitely need bookkeeping. We might need some consulting too, because we feel like we can be saving on taxes if we restructure, for example. And then like, okay, I'm employed by my company, but I also do other work on the side, not related. So I make money as an independent contractor as well. And cool. And then it's like, okay, these are optional, but if we get it, great. Okay, I file separately. Maybe you don't want to put this, but this is just an example. And then okay, income range. Yep, I'm like 150 to 200K. And we can have other questions too. Again, this is an example, like asking about their business income and stuff like that. But again, just an example. So I'm gonna submit it. All right. Okay, great. Thanks for submitting the form. They get a confirmation. Now what happens? So that's from the perspective of the customer, right? Now what happens? Well, we could set it up where they get an automatic email back, right? We talked about that. I'm not going to show that here though. But I want to show you what it looks like in the tool itself. This is HubSpot. Okay, I'm going to go to all my contacts and look here. Jonathan. Jonathan is now right here, loaded up. He came up. I didn't input him before. Nothing. It's just he automatically generated. Jonathan was generated from the form, right? And we can see, okay, we can see the activity. Yep, the contact was created from direct traffic. You can see from this page. He viewed the page and then submitted a form. So we have that information on him, and we see everything he submit here, right? So we already know a good amount about Jonathan. We haven't even talked to him. We don't even know who Jonathan is yet. We know a good amount about him, and it's organized, right? We have it all right here. Okay, so I can come here. This is like basic info on Jonathan. But then, first name, last name, phone number, whatever. But then, collapse this. I have another section here. This is custom. Tax information, right? So now I can see all the different things that he's interested in. It's all in a field, right? All in different fields. I can see that, oh, he's interested in all this. Okay, good. Okay, awesome. Great. So I want to call Jonathan. I want to actually like start talking to him and whatever, reach out, see what's going on. And maybe, okay, I call him, we have an initial conversation, we have a good conversation, whatever, or email him, we schedule a call. So I'm like, all right, this Jonathan's serious. I think it's somebody that we're going to be able to work with. Let's take him through the process. So I'm going to go ahead and be like, all right, let me open up a deal. A deal in HubSpot is essentially like an opportunity. Some CRMs call, if you use Salesforce, something that's an opportunity, but basically it's like when things get serious, right? And there's a good chance of this becoming a customer. So Jonathan Smith here, and let's just say we're like, from the initial call, we found out that he's Even though he's interested in individual, but we're going to really focus on like corporate tax returns because that's where we can really help him. So I'm just going to call the deal, Jonathan Smith, called corporate taxes. Okay. I have, this is the dummy account. So I have a bunch of different pipelines, but the accounting one is the one I made for this demo. So accounting client pipeline, and then it's discovery scheduled. Okay. And then do business and fill out the fields. Again, this is all customizable, but I'm just showing that how it works, and I'm going to create. So now we have a deal, right? We have a deal, that we can put in information on, we can quote them, we can do whatever. But the one thing I want to show is like, okay, where does this go? So let's go to sales and deals. And now we're in accounting client pipeline. And you can see here, Jonathan's right here, right? So he's under discovery scheduled. We can very clearly see, if I'm coming in and every day I'm checking, or every couple of days I'm checking my board, my deal pipeline here, I know exactly what's happening and who I need to follow up with, and things don't fall between the cracks, right? Because I come in, I'm like, all right, yep, I need to, oh, Jonathan, yeah, we scheduled the call. I have to prepare for that call. Oh, we still have John and Shuker and contract review. And it's been a while, so yeah, maybe I should call him. I'm going to call John and see what's up. I know he had a couple questions on the contract that maybe our answers weren't good enough. Let me call him and see what's up, right? And again, you can work them until they work out through this process. And it's very easy to kind of move them along the process, right? Like I can come here and be like, all right, I had the call with Jonathan, it's done. So let's say we finish the discovery call. I'm going to put in discovery complete, and I can go on the deal and actually have notes, right? Great discovery call. I think Jonathan will be an excellent client. He also really likes the level of service that our firm offers, and particularly likes that we are really experienced in real estate. I don't know, because he has a lot of investment properties under his business, and his taxes get really complicated, right? Whatever, you put like some information here, and then I made a typo, but that's okay. I'm a little OCD about them. Okay, and then yeah, now you have this note. Now again, if somebody else jumps in, you're out. Somebody's backing you up, you're on vacation, or whatever, somebody else jumps in, they can see that. They can pick up right from where it left off, and they can come here and they can filter these deals by, the deals that are assigned to you or assigned to them or whatever, and they can filter these deals and move it across to the finish line, right? And at every step, we're not showing that here, and this is like a sandbox, but at every step we might have some automation where it's like, okay, if somebody is sitting in discovery complete for a while and it hasn't been kicked off to the next step, if they're sitting in discovery complete for like a day or two, then that person who owns the deal gets a notification, right? It's like, hey, you have these guys in discovery completed, but you haven't actually moved them along, right? Like, are you gonna submit it for a background check or send them a letter or whatever? You got to move them along. You shouldn't be in that step for long, right? So having like automation across like each step as it makes sense. Now, the other thing I wanted to show is like, okay, let's just say Jonathan becomes a customer, whatever, sometime later, and I'm going to go to Jonathan himself right here, and I'm going to mark that he's a customer now. Okay, he got marked actually automatically that he's a customer now. Great. So now Jonathan's a customer. So now I want to actually track some. And this section wasn't here before, if you remember, but it only showed up because I have him as a customer and made it conditional. So I want to track some historical information on him too, right? So all right, what do we end up doing for him? Well, we end up doing like 1120 corporate tax return. Actually we ended up doing his personal, so that's good. So we ended up doing that. And then what years did we work with him on? I don't know, just whatever, pretend this was a while ago. Like, right, we did 2017, 18, ended up working with him for quite a long time, right? So we have now this information on him. Now again, this is very useful, right? Because it doesn't work with us or whatever, but we have like an informational database of like who we worked with and when, right? So even let's say we had only worked with him in like 2017, for example, and then again, tax cuts and job tax come out. And then we want to send them a note like, hey, are you taking advantage of all these like deductions? Like, we worked with you before, we can help you take advantage of like QBI or whatever it is. And, you're taking advantage of this, like a new thing, and we're like really experienced on it. We know how to do it. Like we're are very familiar with the new tax code inside out. And you can actually do that. So I can come here too and actually filter out my context. So I can come here and be like, okay, I'm going to just, let's do here. I want to, let's say, pick people that tax that we worked with in 2017. right? So now I can see, okay, cool. These are the people that we worked with in 2017. And then I can actually contact them and be like, hey guys, you know, did you hear about these changes, whatever? And again, for whatever year, right? So anytime a tax change comes out, or however other filters I have, right? Hey, there's new credit coming out for energy efficiency. Do you want to hear about it? You know, we can help you with it. You know, I have different things that I can do to like re-engage the customer, or upsell them potentially on other services. Maybe they're already engaged, but it's like, you know, they hear like, okay, they're doing your corporate tax. And it's like, I can actually save you on the individual tax. I can help you with these things. Like, you know what, let me do everything in-house, you know, whatever it is. I have it all in one spot and I can do a lot with it. This is just scratching the surface on what's possible here. But I did want to show like a real-ish example of like, you know, how the flow would work out, and stuff like that, right? And again, you can have your full marketing processes there. You know, where you're sending email marketing newsletters, you can do that in there, you know, being able to collaborate, you know, service, and you can do that in there, right? Like having a whole different service pipeline, which connects the onboarding pipeline. There's a lot that can be done there. And again, we always customize it to the very specific needs of that individual business. There's no, that's the whole point of it being customizable, right? There's no one size exactly fits all, even if there's two businesses in the same industry, if it's not, it's, you know, different, right? So what we have, I mean, we're always here to help. If anybody needs help, we'll be emailing out contact info, you know, and some information like the slides and stuff like that. You know, we help with a lot of different things, whether it's digital ads, process build out, business consulting, you know, website building and more. So yeah, happy to help. And yeah, we'll leave it open for any additional questions that we have. I think we have a few minutes for that, and go from there. Remember, never stop optimizing, by the way.
What I really appreciate is the ability to have cohesion and the same process for every team member. Being able to go on vacation and know your team members are going to be able to have the notes on the upcoming clients. Your business is still going to be able to have business coming in, business being maintained, clients being talked to and nurtured through the sales cycle, and then also or through the marketing cycle while you might be out of the office. So it's not just keeping it on a napkin, being the only person who knows about the process in the company, but everyone does the same process. Every client gets the same experience all the way through. So feel free to put questions into the Q&A. And
Yeah. We got one. We got a good one from Marianne, and it's interesting. She's asking. She uses Liscio for customer client communications, like once they're all, you know, exchanging documents and all that, and was wondering how the two would work together. And so I think I can probably answer that one, Moustafa. But you really would think about, in that instance, you really would probably think about Liscio as managing the work for the customers. And you'd think about HubSpot as managing your prospects, your sales process, your lead inputs, you know, all those things. And then your, I'll just turn on my video here so people can see me. And then have your, like, Liscio is really a client communication platform, secure with, you know, document exchange and e-signatures built in, and task tracking for your clients and things. So as with any apps that you're using, you want to be sure you're sort of employing them for the right job. And what I've seen is HubSpot does an absolutely gorgeous way of capturing people right from the very first interest all the way through the sales cycle. And then for newsletters and things, you think about it kind of like as your email engine for mass communications with your clients and things. I think it's, and then tracking deadlines and sort of people that aren't in your customer flow. Like, hey, you were asking us about this question, you know, last year. Is this still an issue for you? That would be so. What would you add on top of that? Because Liscio isn't a like that full on sort of sales cycle CRM, but we do have an overlap with the communications with clients a little bit. But HubSpot isn't really to manage the work of the client. Would you say that? Like,
Yeah, Allison, no, I definitely want to add to that. Yeah, you there's a lot of different ways you can do things. And one cool thing about HubSpot is that they actually have, and it depends on how far you want to take it, but they actually have an open API, which means that you can actually build integrations into HubSpot from, wherever that could support it, right? So we do this all the time where it's like, hey, like that's
Like
cool.
Zapier. Zapier is probably an example where you can zap things in or you can zap things
Yeah,
out.
you could use
Is that
Zapier.
an
You can
example?
even build them
Yep.
directly. Yeah. So it's like, hey,
Yep.
we use them, and a lot of there's integrations that exist. We could also build stuff like hey, we're using HubSpot, but we still have our custom dashboard that like we still want to have customers have access to that. We hey, let's integrate it into HubSpot, right? Let's show the status there. Let's bring in the relevant information we need. Or hey, yeah, we like it. HubSpot has a chatbot. It's cool, but we want to use other chatbot because it has like a lot of AI. All right, let's get it integrated into HubSpot for when we
Yeah.
need it for the certain things. So you can think of HubSpot as like the quarterback, but it doesn't have to be the whole team, right? So you have other players on the team, and HubSpot is quarterbacking.
But I would imagine that most people on this call, you actually are out networking and talking to potential customers all the time, right? In your life. And I know from speaking to accountants and bookkeepers and tax pros, especially those that sort of head up smaller firms, they're really overwhelmed with, like, they know how to take care of their customers, but their sales and their marketing processes are really kind of catch all, like they do the best they can. So what you've shown us is really great processes for, just as Davida said, for optimizing things without without spending a million hours on it, right? And without, yeah.
Absolutely.
So very eye-opening. Folks, if you want to pop in a last minute question, please do, but we're also happy to end a little early, no problem. We do set our webinars up to be sort of 45, 50 minutes. So we're at the 46-minute mark. And if there aren't any other questions, then we'll end now and we will make sure that you have Moustafa's information. And then, there was a question earlier when we first joined. I'm sorry, I forgot who answered it. Whether we'll be sharing the PDF of the PowerPoint. Are you happy? You're happy to have us share that? Okay,
We'll send we'll send a couple of follow-up emails with contact info and
that's great.
and the PowerPoint. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everyone. I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so thank you so much. Moustafa, is there anything else you'd like to add, or Davida?
No, thank you guys for coming. Really great questions. And again, this gives you an idea of how you can do it. There's obviously every business is unique. Even two businesses right across the street from each other that do somewhat of the same thing are still unique, right? If you have any questions or you're like, hey, I want to talk about it from the perspective of my business exactly, feel free to reach out. We'll get the contact info within the next few days, and we're happy to help wherever we can.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Hey guys, bye-bye.